Hey, this is Johannes of Avatar, and you're watching Heavy Consequence on Consequence of Sound.
As of right now, you have a new live album out now. It's called The King Live in Paris.
Yeah.
And what can you tell me about that release in particular? And for fans who haven't seen Avatar live, what can they expect from an Avatar live show?
Well, let's start with the album in particular, because the thing is, I did not think I would ever feel that we would have a reason to release a live album. I have the first one I got as a kid was made in Japan on vinyl, and I felt like, okay, so it's done. That's how you do that, and the rest of the world can move on. Live at Last by Sabbath. I remember buying that when it came out. Not as good as made in Japan. So that as an art form, I've always been partial to, like, does it ever do the performance justice, or are we good enough, or blah blah. Then it's just that the journey of making Avatar Country, which originally was about a bunch of things, doing comedy instead of tragedy for once, is the most upbeat version of Avatar you'll ever get to see, and it was about a whole bunch of different things in the beginning that transformed into that at the end. Now that we reached that chapter in our lives is about to close shortly, more than anything it became about our relationship to our fans, our audience, to the citizens of Avatar Country. Because even in the beginning we didn't tell anyone we were going to the studio or we were writing. We just released the first music video, and suddenly there he is, the king with a crown, and this bizarre world is opening up to people for the first time. And people from the very first note, people were on board to do this journey with us. No questions asked. And it made sense, therefore, to now, in this particular moment, where so much of the focus became on this, to make an album where the fans are on it, where there's an audience on the album. And to capture this relationship that has really exploded in the last year and a half. We just so for that reason it finally made sense to do it. What it's all about to us is that we are always asking ourselves what the music looks like, and which is kind of abstract, but it totally makes sense when you think about bands who are good at that. Let's say Slipknot or Rammstein, or even bands that are as theatrical like that. Even a Foo Fighters also does that. They look the way they sound and perform the way the feel of the music is, and we are all about that, and doing this kind of music that is a lot in the realm of things that are fantastical, just musically, lots of stuff going on. I think it's a very colorful kind of music, and lively, and something that goes deep into darker corners of your mind, and all of those things we want to put in the stage show, and how we dress, how we behave, how we communicate, and how we build the stage. And now with Avatar Country, it's a very over-the-top album, paying great tribute to an older way to make heavy metal, and this is a great fantasy kingdom that is as real to you as you want it to be, and all those things are there, and therefore they are also on stage. So it's always just trying to reflect the music, really.
Cool. And there's a lot of great stuff coming out of Sweden now. I mean, there's you guys, there's Ghost, and it just seemed in the last few years, in particular, a lot of bands just kind of making it on the international scene. Is there something in the water there? What's going on? Can you describe what's going on there?
I think there are a couple of things. One is, when you talk about us, we are from, most of us is from a town called Mölndal, which is right door to door to Gothenburg. So we're West Coast kids. And when we wanted to play in a bands together and stuff, there was a generation a little bit older than about a decade older than us, that made it in the world, that made these great albums that we grew up with. And what you then have is guys out there that come from where you come from, and that look like you, and therefore the path somehow seems more doable like that. It's not this pedestal of someone, I don't like the kids who, Swedes loved Elvis Presley in the 50s as well, but that was this elusive thing down from Memphis, and where is Memphis? Probably on the moon, as far as people were concerned there. So the distance was shorter. That is something that helped us in particular. And nowadays in Sweden, I feel like every little small town has something like that. Umeå has Meshuggah and Refused, and a couple more that I can't remember now. Fagersta has the Hives, you know, and you don't know where Fagersta is, but
I know who the Hives
yeah,
are.
people from Fagersta, kids who wants to play in bands know that the Hives are from there. So you can be from there, play in their little youth center, hang out by their McDonald's or whatever, being bored, and form a band and make it, even if you're from Fagersta. And that's true for so many small towns in Sweden. So that's part of it. That just once one has made it, another one becomes this infrastructure. And the other thing, I think it has to do with a social safety net in a way that you can afford to fail. I know I have lots of friends from all over Europe that deeply into music, that then pursued a higher education instead, and in many cases it was this, no, you have to make something out of yourself, which you do also in Sweden, but you have time to try some different things and fail. I feel there's more room for failure, and that I believe creates more success stories.
Yeah.
So that is part of it, and because it's such now so in the culture that, and there are so many, for a fairly small country, there are a lot of start with ABBA, and and up until now, and it's more and more every year. In some cultures, it's like, you want to be a musician? Hell no, not on my watch. You're a doctor, son, or whatever. You're taking over the family business. You will make shoes or whatever, which is all very valid and great jobs to have. But it's just that I think for Swedish parents usually see their kids and like, yeah, you want to be a musician? Cool. Go for it, kid. It's supportive on state level, family level. The whole culture is all for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, obviously, sometimes there might be some confusion with the band name and the movie. And now there's been an announcement that there's 4 Avatar sequels coming out.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to affect your band's profile? And would you ever want to contribute a song to one of the sequel soundtracks?
I think Avatar is probably James Cameron's worst movie.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm a fan, Terminator and also Titanic. I hated Titanic when I was 11, but it's an amazing movie. So I like a whole lot of stuff that is made, not that one. When the first one came out, it gave us the opportunity to, we tried to sell our domain name at the time. We had avatar.net. Tried to sell it to Hollywood. No one answered our calls. But it gave great room for the joke that what 3D? We've been in 3D since 2001, man. Stuff like that. I think, it will be confusion for a while. I can't imagine those movies being much better than what he already did. So we'll still be the best Avatar out there. One thing that could happen, but I don't think it can anymore, but was always this, what if they sue us? What if they claim the rights to the name and blah, blah? And we can't fight that. No, so what would we do? Change name to Terminator 2.